Of Nine Tails Chapter Summary. This chapter contains inappropriate use of yardsticks and a frank non-explicit discussion of kinky things. Chapter notes. See the end of the chapter for notes of Bellybale. Seriously. Miss Ladybug, yeah, he said he wants to restock his supply chest and he wants me to help pick stuff out of Bellybale. Jealous. A Bellybale, I'd love to get a chance to hit up libertines with someone else footing the bill. Your guy must be either loaded or looking to rack up some credit card debt. Miss Ladybug, little of column A, little of column B. Lol. Miss Ladybug, anything I should expect. A Bellybale, well, how many shops like this have you been to? Miss Ladybug, one or two American ones while I was in New York. A Bellybale, okay, so libertines is like that except. Not at all. Miss Ladybug, oh dear, are there going to be people dangling from the ceiling in cages? A Bellybale, sadly no. A Bellybale, it's actually a very well-to-do establishment. Miss Ladybug, well-to-do. A Bellybale, as well-to-do as a shop that sells edible underwear can be anyway. A Bellybale, people there are friendly, everyone keeps to their own business and the owner's daughter is an amateur kickboxer, so creeps get ejected pretty regularly. Miss Ladybug, so there's no danger of me getting noticed. A Bellybale, unless you run into someone you know, are a Kardashian. No. A Bellybale, are you dating a Kardashian? Miss Ladybug, haha, not quite. Miss Ladybug, let's just say he values his privacy and leave it at that. A Bellybale, ooh, how elusive. Miss Ladybug, I know we're super mysterious, haha. A Bellybale, well, if you ever need another pair of eyes for advice, I'd be happy to help. Miss Ladybug, I'll keep it in mind. Miss Ladybug, I think Saturday is going to be justice though. Miss Ladybug, Dom, sub-bonding or whatever. Bellybale, well, it can be fun to do stuff like that with your boyfriend. A Bellybale, sorry, partner. Miss Ladybug, it's okay, haha. Miss Ladybug, we're partners, friends who happen to have sex and make out a lot. It's easy to confuse. Miss Ladybug, not exactly conventional, is it? A Bellybale, PSH, who's to say what conventional is anyway? Miss Ladybug, do you think my relationship is weird? A Bellybale, PSH, not at all. Miss Ladybug, but we like Miss Ladybug, kiss and stuff. A Bellybale, end. Miss Ladybug, and isn't that super lovey-dovey and stuff? A Bellybale, kissing is just two mouths bumping into one another, why would that be romantic? Miss Ladybug, I keep telling myself that, but I've never kissed anyone I wasn't serious about. A Bellybale, well, by the sound of it you're doing a lot of things you haven't done before, right? Miss Ladybug, I guess. A Bellybale, life isn't a romantic comedy, you don't have to develop feelings for someone you happen to be in a physical relationship with. A Bellybale, sex and romance aren't totally linked. Miss Ladybug, is it that easy to separate them? Miss Ladybug, you're telling me you'd be okay with your husband kissing another person in front of you? A Bellybale, well. Miss Ladybug, oh my god, am I accidentally kink-shamming you? A Bellybale, a little lol. Miss Ladybug, I am so sorry. A Bellybale, that's okay, haha. A Bellybale, we're not like in an open relationship, but we have a couple we've been friends with for a long time now. A Bellybale, very good friends with. Miss Ladybug, you know how to keep a girl humble. Abbe. Miss Ladybug, here I was thinking I was queen kinky because I got tied up once and in you swing with your Miss Ladybug, swinging. A Bellybale, flatterer. Miss Ladybug, I'm sorry, how does that even work? Miss Ladybug, do you go over for a boring couple dinner night and end up naked at the end instead of playing Pictionary? A Bellybale, not exactly, haha. Miss Ladybug, are they kinksters too? A Bellybale, MMHMM. Another D.S. pair. A Bellybale, we kinda came up in the kink scene with them, it's always been something we kicked around like, haha, wouldn't it be funny if we all got together? LMAO, can you imagine? Miss Ladybug, then it stopped being funny and started being all https://www.youtube.com/watch. B equals IZGWDSRQ1EQ, right? A Bellybale, PFFFFFT. A Bellybale, something like that, haha. Miss Ladybug, so do you guys like. And feel free to tell me if I'm digging too deep here, do you guys like switch along D.S. lines? A Bellybale, at times. A Bellybale, at times the other dominant and I like directing our subs when they're together. A Bellybale, the point after all this sharing is that my husband doesn't love me any less because of our extramarital activities. Miss Ladybug, so what if you found out he was cheating on you? A Bellybale, that's different. Miss Ladybug, is it? A belly bail, cheating is painful and treacherous not because your partner does something with someone else, it's that they disregard your relationship to do so. A belly bail, when we agree to, swing, it's a decision all four of us make, everyone knows what's going to happen and consents to it. A belly bail, the point is that we make sure everyone's taken care of and no one is left out for the evening, even when the other dominant or I have to work late and the other three get together, it's something we agree to. A belly bail, but once the dust settles, my husband and I are committed to each other. Same goes for our friend couple who have been together as long as we have. Almost. A belly bail, now if one of us were to start doing things without our spouse's consent, that would be different because it wouldn't be something that we agreed to. The betrayal part of cheating happens because one partner decided to be selfish and not include their committed partner in a decision regarding their love, sex life. A belly bail, am I making sense? Miss Ladybug, logically yes Miss Ladybug, I don't know, I don't think I'm the kind of person who could watch my current partner be with someone else even if I was getting taken care of as well. A belly bail, that's totally understandable. A belly bail, your kinks don't have to align with anyone else's, you should never feel like you have to do anything, you know. Miss Ladybug, I sound a little possessive don't I? Miss Ladybug, I don't know when I'm with him Miss Ladybug, or anyone really Miss Ladybug, I like knowing they're mine. Miss Ladybug, is that creepy of me? A belly bail, so long as you don't start biting the head off of anyone who so much as looks at him I think you're good. Miss Ladybug, lol I can't see myself doing that. You suck at being rich dude. I didn't know that was something someone could be good at. Neither did I, until I realized you suck at it. Nino sighed, tapping an improvised rhythm on his leg as Adrian struggled to turn the headlights off. You could have bought literally any car on that lot. I know, Adrian said, fumbling around for the turn signal and accidentally turning on the windshield wipers. Could have got a Maserati, a Ferrari, a Bentley, Nino said, gripping onto the handle above his seat as the car suddenly lurched backwards. But no, you wanted the divorced mom car. I live in Paris, what am I going to do with a Maserati besides sit in traffic? Adrian snorted, craning his neck to back out of the dealership stall. See, practical thinking like that is why you suck at being rich, Nino said, making sure his seatbelt was properly fastened. You think Chloe Bourgeois goes to a car dealership and buys a 2025 Subaru Outback in red. It's burgundy, Adrian insisted, sliding his seat back as they turned into the street. Besides, Maserati don't have trunk space or 4% seating. Right, because you need that for all the freaky deaky sex furniture you're going to pick up today, Nino snorted. We're not picking up sex furniture, Adrian said, neck turning pink. Don't have floor space for it, no, you're just taking Mari to your snooty underground sex shop to refill your dildo box, Nino said. I don't have a dildo box. Adrian huffed, where do you keep the dildos? Well, if I had any, in a box, but so it's a dildo box, Nino said. It's not just for dildos, Adrian insisted, scratching the back of his neck. When you say it like that you make it sound like I have a crate full of vibrators in my closet or something. Are you telling me you don't have a pirate chest full of multicolored vibrators at the foot of your bed? Nino snickered. No. Another reason why you suck at being rich, Nino pointed out, grabbing the car handle as Adrian suddenly took a hard turn. Jesus dude, buy some driving lessons, why don't ya? Sorry, Adrian said, half to Nino and half to the pedestrian he nearly clipped. Been a while, you know. Not how I thought I was going to be spending my Saturday, man, Nino whimpered, glancing over his shoulder. Hey, you missed the turnoff for Marinette's apartment back there. Not picking her up at her apartment, Adrian grunted, focused on keeping his wheels on the road. She wants me to pick her up at her office. On a Saturday. Nino shook his head. Girl basically lives there at this point, doesn't she? That she does, Adrian sighed. He could tell Marinette had been out of sorts lately, but it wasn't really his place to be telling her to go home and get some sleep. She had a business to run and, since Adrian had no stake in it himself, he had to constantly remind himself to stay in his lane and not cluck over Marinette like a mother hen. But Adrian would have been happy if Marinette spent the entire weekend sleeping on his couch instead of their scheduled activities. Not as happy but happy nonetheless. You know, I've never seen her studio, Nino said, glancing around the neighborhood Coccinelle was located in as they drove up. Got to say, Mari is posted up in a pretty tough part of what the hell man. Adrian had slammed on the brakes as they pulled up in front of the store with such force that Nino had to grab onto the back of Adrian's seat to keep himself from flying forward. Under normal circumstances, Adrian might have exhibited a little more care when driving his best friend around. But currently, Adrian didn't care about anything other than the woman standing in front of Cochinal's storefront. On any other person, Adrian wouldn't have looked twice at the pink and white polka-dotted sundress that hung off Marinette's frame. But the way she wore it, the way it fit every petite curve of her body, had almost caused Adrian to rear-end the hatchback in front of him. Her hair was pulled up in a high, perky ponytail and white sandals tapped against the ground as she waited. Marinette spotted them, peering over the rim of a pair of large pink sunglasses and shooting a small wave to them as the car behind Adrian honked. Dong, Nino chuckled with a low whistle, glancing at Adrian's scarlet complexion as he backed into a free spot in front of the design studio. I'm going to tell Aaliyah you said that, Adrian groused, glancing at his expression in the mirror with a mortified whimper when he found that his face was as red as it felt. And she would co-sign that Dong if she were here right now, Nino said, hopping out of the car before he had to endure an aggressed parallel park. So, this is what you guys came up with, Marinette said, tilting her head as Adrian tried to squeeze into the slot in front of her office. Hey, the boy sucks at being rich, Nino said, holding his hands up. I tried to tell him to get a Ferrari or something, but what's the point of having a Ferrari in the city? Marinette finished, nodding as Adrian got out of the car. Thank you, Adrian said, shooting a smug grin to Nino, who didn't even try to hide his disgust. Nerds, the both of you, Nino sighed. Marinette tossed her overnight bag into the backseat, bending over to stick her head inside and look around. Adrian's eyes briefly flickered down to her butt before coughing, looking away as Nino returned Adrian's smug grin in kind. I could basically live in this trunk, Marinette exclaimed, standing up and smoothing her sundress. Is Nino coming with us? Yuck, Nino gagged, holding his hands up. Hell no. Thank you, Nino, Adrian said flatly. Your unwavering support is the foundation of our beautiful friendship. Hey, you do you, Nino said, backing away. Just don't ask me to do you with you or to you, okay? My sex life is fine without Aaliyah vacuum sealing my nuts to a lava lamp. What do you think we do? Adrian asked, turning to Marinette. What do they think we do? Sides, Alia's family invited me to dinner and I am not missing Marlena's Colombo for all the electrified butt plugs in Paris, Nino said, waving them off. I'll let you two weirdos get on with whatever it was you two were going to do today. Thanks for the, assistance, Nino, Adrian said, returning the wave. Enjoy the sad, red mom car, man. Nino cackled, tossing up a loose peace sign as he headed down the block. It's burgundy, Adrian muttered dejectedly, kicking the ground as Marinette patted his shoulder with a small chuckle. It's better than my car at least, Marinette said, glancing up at Adrian to find that his gaze was returning from a sweep up and down her body. Yes. I haven't seen you in this dress before, Adrian said, resisting the urge to run his hands over the fabric that clung to her hips. You haven't seen me out of it either, Marinette chuckled, leaning back against the car as he slowly reached his hand out to run his fingertips down her bare arm. Really? Adrian said, smile widening as her lips parted ever so slightly. I seem to have a very distinct memory of what you look like out of that dress. You have a very distinct memory of what I look like out of my red dress, Marinette said, hand pressing against the flat of his stomach. She felt him tense under her touch, smiling as she stepped off the curb and out of his reach. You look different when you're not wearing this dress, Adrian asked, holding the car door open for Marinette as she climbed in. Marinette smoothed her dress, crossing her legs and shooting him a coy smile. You'll have to be the judge of that, won't you? In that case I think I'll have to see what you look like without your entire wardrobe, Adrian laughed, savoring the flush of pink in her cheeks as he sauntered his way around to the driver's seat. I'm almost tempted to skip the shopping trip. Don't you dare blueball me when it comes to shopping trips, Marinette said, shooting a playful glare over the rim of her glasses. You don't promise to take me to your snobby underground sex toy shop and then flake on me. I made that promise before you brought up the subject of removing that dress, Adrian said, resting his elbow on the back of his seat to look at her better. Now, you've piqued my curiosity. Is that all it takes to distract you? Marinette laughed, turning to rest her elbow on the back of her seat to face him in kind. A woman telling you that she might take her dress off. When you're the woman, Adrian said, biting his lip. Of course. Marinette sighed, shaking her head as an idea seemed to strike her. She glanced up and down the empty commercial neighborhood her studio was in, craning her neck to see if anyone was coming. When she was satisfied that they were alone, she leaned back into her seat, pushing her sunglasses up onto the top of her head. What if I satisfied just a bit of your curiosity? Marinette asked, answering Adrian's confused expression by slowly moving her hands down to grasp the hem of her sundress. Adrian's eyes followed her hand, eyes widening as he swept the streets for any pedestrians that might see them. Clear. Why, yeah, Adrian stammered, clearing his throat as he sat up attentively in his seat. Marinette's heart thudded in her ears as her hands slowly hiked the edge of her skirt up. She turned so she leaned back against the door, smiling as Adrian's complexion darkened with every inch of pale, freckled skin that was revealed to him. He was transfixed by the steady rise of her skirt hem, mouth going dry as her dress inched closer towards her hips. Marinette cast another furtive glance around them before lifting her skirt above her waistline and pulling it at her hips. Satisfied? Marinette asked, a Cheshire grin tugging at the corners of her lips. Adrian couldn't respond, his attention was captivated by the sight of simple pink cotton bikini panties embossed with a silver glittering crown on the front. You see now why I said I look different out of this dress. I do, Adrian said. His hand drifted down to her leg, slowly sliding up her calf. I really Marinette said, reaching out and pressing her hand against Adrian's chest as his palm reached the soft skin of her thigh. She pushed him back against his door gently, skirt still bearing the soft pink garment just out of Adrian's reach. Behave yourself. I've been behaving myself less and less these days, Adrian said, hand lingering at the base of her calf. I've noticed, Marinette said, rocking her palm against his chest. I think I'm forgetting how, to be honest, Adrian said in a tone that begged her to remind him. He made no effort to move or push her hand off him, though she was sure he would have no trouble if he wanted to. Marinette's conversations with AA sprang to mind as she looked across the car at him, the word intoxicating ringing in her ears. A heady sense of predatory desire purred inside her, made sweeter by the knowledge that Adrian would enjoy being her prey. She wondered if she looked as inviting as he did when he held her leash, surprised at how his submissive expression seemed to draw out her dominant side just as his dominant behavior let her enjoy being submissive. This was a dance Marinette was just learning the steps to, but already she found herself getting lost in the rhythm. You're so good at behaving yourself with me, though, Marinette pointed out, watching Adrian practically purr as she removed her fingers from his chest. Maybe one of these days you can show me just how good. Marinette left Adrian flopped back against the door as she sat up straight, smoothing her skirt and adjusting her ponytail as though nothing had happened. But for now, she said with a sweet smile that only broadened at Adrian's flushed, hungry expression. You wanted to go shopping. This is not what I expected. Marinette shielded her eyes from the sun, glancing up at the building in the middle of a busy, respectable part of town. When Adrian had mentioned the shop to her, she envisioned seedy alleyways and flashing neon signs advertising the depravity within. The large, somewhat ordinary-looking bookstore she had passed on her way to work almost every morning didn't exactly scream secret sex shop. What did you expect? Adrian asked, eternally grateful that he chose to wear jeans and the effects of Marinette's impromptu tease weren't apparent to the people he passed on the street. A gothic dungeon in the middle of Paris. Kinda, Marinette shrugged. Something tells me that wouldn't pass zoning, Adrian snorted. Besides, the whole black brick and mortar thing can be intimidating for a lot of people, myself included if I'm being perfectly honest. Really? Marinette asked, nodding as Adrian held the door for her. Like I said, I like my private life private, Adrian chuckled with a conspiratorial wink. Inside, the bookshop was as unremarkable as its exterior. Rows of tall, neatly labeled bookshelves snaked and wound their way back into the shop, obscuring the back of the store in a maze of book covers. A small pack of old ladies poured over the mystery section, nodding and smiling at Marinette as she passed with Adrian's arm wound around the small of her back. You sure this is the right place? Marinette asked as they made their way towards the back of the shop. Where do you think I got your collar? Adrian said, leaning down and murmuring in her ear as they approached a nondescript archway at the back of the shop. Couldn't have grabbed rope while you were at it. Marinette snorted as they entered an alcove at the back of the shop. Inside, a small cage elevator was guarded by a young woman engrossed in a history book. Won't make that mistake twice, Adrian said, lightly squeezing Marinette's waist as the woman looked up at them curiously for a moment. Can I help you? The woman asked. Is there a secret password? Marinette murmured. Tell me there's a secret password. We're, friends of the late Marquis, Adrian said, blushing as Marinette failed to completely suppress a snicker beside him. The woman with the book shot a small glare Marinette's direction, but Marinette simply lowered her large pink sunglasses, looking the other woman in the eye until she sighed and pressed a switch on the wall. The cage elevator behind her whirred, a light above the door flickering on as it opened. "No fooling around in the store," the woman said, returning to her book. "We don't care what you're into, just don't do it in our shop." Marinette shot the woman a crisp mock salute as she passed, stepping into the elevator after Adrian and leaning against the wall as the door shut behind them. "Well, this is theatrical," Marinette snickered, running her fingers along the vintage-looking brass fittings as Adrian leaned against the wall opposite her. "A little levity goes a long way," Adrian shrugs, rubbing the back of his neck. "It disarms the nervous first-timers." "Are you saying I'm nervous?" Marinette asked, brow raising over the rim of her glasses. "You're still wearing your sunglasses," Adrian pointed out. "I'm being theatrical," Marinette said, poignantly straightening her shades. The silence lingered for a moment as the elevator began to descend. "Some of us have a reputation to uphold. This place is very discreet," Adrian said, biting his lip. "Hence all the cloak and dagger, but if you'd like to leave." "I don't want to leave," Marinette said. "I just want to be careful. I have a business to run, don't want to end up on the front page of the tabloids." Marinette took a step towards Adrian, threading her arm through his to forestall any further questions that lingered on the edge of his uncertain gaze. "I'm starting to think you're the one that's having second thoughts," Marinette murmured, a smile playing at her lips. "Scared that I may pick out something too risque for you." Adrian stepped off the wall of the elevator, a mildly wounded smile crossing his face. "You know, you are being very cheeky today." "I'm sure I don't know what you mean," Marinette said, glancing over the rim of her shades with an expression of exaggerated innocence that quickly melted into a coy, teasing smirk. "Sir." Marinette watched his Adam's apple bob, a small laugh escaping his throat as he wrapped his hands around her waist. "Then I'm going to have to show you when we get home, won't I?" The energy between them subtly shifted. Adrian had taken the lead, hands sliding down the small of her back and resting just above the soft curve of her backside. He pulled her closer to him as her hands splayed across his chest, looking up at him with her lip caught between her teeth. It was her turn to tease, inviting Adrian's dominant side out of hiding by shifting her body into his touch. He would be remote and respectful until she gave him license not to be, exactly what she intended to do throughout the course of the day. Fitful nights sleeping on her office couch combined with increasingly stressful working conditions had frayed her to the point of desperation. She needed some serious Marinette time, which translated to being ridden hard and put away wet, shaking, and satisfied. And if she couldn't sit properly for a few days, so much the better. Adrian's hand squeezed her ass through her dress as the elevator hit the bottom floor, giving a small pinch through her dress as the doors opened. "Behave yourself," he reminded her. "No promises," Marinette said with a small wink, readjusting her glasses and stepping out of the elevator. If she had expected a blacklight-lit sex dungeon, she would have been sorely disappointed. Libertine's appeared to be no different than any other store on first glance. The decor was purposefully antiquated, with hardwood, brass, and red velvet fixtures lit by wall sconces and a faux Tiffany's chandelier that dangled high above the open shop floor that stretched some 30 yards ahead of her and 30 yards to the side. It might have been an antique emporium or haberdashery, were it not for the unusual merchandise lining the neatly stocked shelves. "Don't get too far ahead of me," Adrian said, closing the elevator door and sending it back up with a press of the button as Marinette's eyes roamed over a nearby bookshelf which boasted titles from The Ethics of Casual Sex to 101 Shibari Knots for Beginners. "Afraid I'm going to get lost." Marinette chuckled, eyes sweeping over the store. Aside from the woman behind the counter, Marinette could only see the tall bouncer woman Abbé had warned her about and two other customers, a man in a baseball cap and shades and a slender woman in a broad-brimmed white hat. Clearly she was not the only one who thought subterfuge was a good idea. "Get as lost as you want," Adrian said, producing a shopping cart from the side of the glass counter that ran the length of one wall. "Just not without me. Suit yourself, you are footing the bill for this," Marinette shrugged, slowly meandering her way down a row of shelves. "Are you still cool with that?" "Hey," Adrian shrugged, leaning on the shopping cart as he trailed behind her. "Never was much of a disappointment to my dad when he was alive. Figured I got some ground to make up, and blowing hundreds of euro on sex toys seems like a good place to start." "I won't complain then," Marinette chuckled, stopping and turning down the aisle next to one of the walls to the shop. Great spools of rope and chain were screwed into the wall, large shears attached to each spool so customers could cut lengths themselves. You have a color preference. Black is always nice for matching, Adrian said, unspooling a length of black rope and testing it experimentally. You don't have a nylon allergy, do you? Nope, Marinette shrugged, watching Adrian wind the length of rope around his arms before glancing thoughtfully up at the soft, dark red rope. Can I vote for red? She answered Adrian's amused eyebrow raise with a small shrug. I'm a fashion designer, I like having wardrobe options. Adrian just shrugged, unspooling length as Marinette ran her fingers along the black rope in the basket. Nylon. Less chafing, Adrian said, wrapping up another length in a simple knot and tossing it in the basket. Believe me, rope burns will ruin an otherwise nice night on the town. Ouch, that sounds like you have experience, Marinette said, wincing a little. Well, Adrian shrugged, pushing the cart after her. When you're young and too embarrassed to go shopping for proper equipment, you just grab whatever you think will do the trick. And then have to cancel shoots because your thighs have red marks up and down them. What did you tell your dad? He was in Milan at the time, so I avoided what could have been an awkward conversation, Adrian snorted, watching Marinette eye a pair of thick metal handcuffs in a case with a raised brow. Thankfully Dad never knew what kinds of things I got up to in my downtime. I sure as hell wasn't going to tell him either. You're not one of those people who feels like they should come out as kinky. Marinette said with a teasing glance over her shoulder. Please, I never even told him I liked guys, Adrian said, running his hand through his hair. I wasn't going to lead with handcuffs and ball gags. Speaking of the latter, Marinette said, pausing in front of a shelf dedicated mufflers, gags, and mouth guards of all stripes and sizes. We're going to need a few of these sooner or later, aren't we? You really want to deprive me of your lovely singing voice. Adrian chuckled, grinning at the flush that colored Marinette's cheeks. She frowned for a moment, scanning the racks of boxes before reaching out and snatching a bright red ball gag and holding it up for his approval. I thought you were more of a red person. I am, Marinette said, tossing it in the basket with a secretive smile. That one's yours. Adrian's eyes widened, tongue slowly tracing his lips as he stared at the box in the basket. The exchange in the car quickly came to mind as he was reminded of just how much he missed being tied up, gagged, and pushed beyond limits he thought he was capable of. It was a craving as raw and pressing as his desire to see Marinette tangled and bound in soft pink rope, waiting on his attentions. He wanted to be taken roughly, he wanted to be ridden so hard he couldn't walk straight. He wanted to be teased, whipped, and tormented until he was an aching, sobbing mess, and then he wanted to dissipate in her arms. But he had to wait, he could be patient when he wanted to be, and besides, taking the reins was no great hardship for him. Adrian plucked a black, rubber ring gag from the shelf, twirling it over thoughtfully before tossing it into the basket on top of the red one. Marinette eyed it curiously, glancing up at Adrian with a raised brow. Why the ring? Marinette asked, falling into step beside him as they made their way down the aisle. Guess, Adrian said simply, watching her expression darken another shade. She bit her lip, eyebrows raising over the rim of her sunglasses. I'm guessing it's not for water breaks, Marinette chuckled, resting her hand on the basket beside his. Can be, Adrian shrugged, tilting his head to one side as though the idea hadn't occurred to him. Huh, you want one too, don't you? Marinette asked. It would free my mouth up, Adrian pointed out, running his tongue over his teeth. On second thought, is there a bigger gag I can get you? Marinette said, doubling back as Adrian hooked his fingers through hers, tugging her along as she pretended to scan the shelves. Maybe something sound muffling. If you're looking for something capable of completely shutting me up, I'm afraid it hasn't been invented yet, Adrian laughed, tugging her along and ignoring the man in the ballcap who passed them. I'll have to work on that myself then, Marinette sighed theatrically, threading her arm through Adrian's as he snatched a bottle of lubricant from a passing shelf. Someone's in a hurry. You go back to work on Monday, Adrian reminded her, glancing between two boxes of condoms before tossing both in the basket. Which means I have less than 48 hours of Marinette time left. Why do I feel like Marinette time means Marinette naked and cuffed to household furniture time? Marinette murmured in Adrian's ear. Because you know me too well, Adrian replied, heart hammering as she rested her head on his shoulder. Better than I know you, unfortunately. It's almost like you can't know everything there is to know about someone by hanging them from your ceiling for a single night, Marinette said, tapping her chin. Adrian was quiet for a moment. So you're saying multiple nights hanging from my ceiling will help me get to know you, B. Walked right into that one, Marinette sighed, smacking him in the shoulder and accidentally bumping into a shelf. Walked into that too, Adrian snickered, stooping to scoop up the boxes that clattered to the floor. You're going to walk into this, Marinette grumbled, jabbing a box containing an electric wand into Adrian's side. I'm gonna shock you in the butt when you're not looking. Oh no you will not, Adrian laughed, holding his hands up and backing away. This may be a little premature to bring up my limits, but you are not shocking me with that or any other sparky devil contraption. Really? Marinette glanced at the box in her hand with a raised eyebrow. How is this worse than spanking? It's not, Adrian shrugged, nose winkling. It's just different, and not the different I enjoy. Marinette shrugged, replacing the electric rod on the shelf without another word. Fair enough, find me something you would enjoy then. Adrian nodded behind Marinette, pushing their cart past another customer as they snaked their way over to a small alcove at the back of the store. Is this where they keep the Iron Maidens? And Marinette trailed off as she stepped through the arch, lowering her glasses as she looked around her. Stuff. The room she stood in looked like it had once been rented by a particularly kinky member of the Spanish Inquisition. Metal racks stretched 6 feet off the ground, covering almost every corner of the room and covered with anything capable of causing erotic discomfort. The standard fare grabbed her attention first. Whips, floggers, and crops came in all different colors, sizes, and textures. But alongside them were some more unusual implements, wooden spoons, hairbrushes, belts that had no practical fashion application at all. Well, Marinette said with a low whistle, biting her lip as she slowly made her way around the room. Not wanting for choice, are they? You see why everyone loves this place. Adrian said, leaning against the frame as he watched her trace a candy pink riding crop through its cellophane packaging with the tips of her fingers. Beginning to, Marinette said, pausing in the center of the room to glance back at him. So what are we getting? What do you want to try? Adrian asked, smiling as Marinette's eyebrows cleared the rims of her glasses. Anything, in particular. I don't exactly have any preferences in mind, Marinette laughed, rubbing her arm as she glanced around at the fairly intimidating selection of spanking implements. She wrinkled her nose as her gaze landed on a flogger with metallic tips. Not that. Noted, Adrian said, pushing himself off the wall and walking around the room in the opposite direction. He watched her remove a plastic-wrapped hairbrush from the racks, tapping it against the palm of her hand thoughtfully before replacing it. Tried the hairbrush myself once but Marinette shrugged. Didn't get anything out of it. That's because you were doing it to yourself, Adrian said, watching her regard a large leather paddle curiously. Your brain anticipates the blow so the overall effect is lessened. Kinda the same reason you can't tickle yourself. Adrian's fingers lightly tickled her side as he passed, savoring the small giggle that slipped out of her lips. Don't tickle me when I have yardsticks in reach, Marinette said, plucking a yardstick from the rack and brandishing it in his direction like a fencer. I will run you through. Oh, so you're a fencer now. Adrian snorted, plucking another yardstick from the rack and assuming an on-guard stance. I am when it comes to defending my sides from being tickled by vagrants, Marinette laughed, lunging for Adrian's shoulder only to have Adrian deftly bat her weapon aside. Oh, I dare say you won't be able to do much to stop me, Adrian snickered, slipping inside her guard and lightly poking Marinette in the stomach with the tip of his stick. You are seriously going to pay for that? Marinette said in mock outrage, making the same lunge only for Adrian to bat her stick to the side yet again. Going to have to do better than Adrian yelped as Marinette's stick didn't change course, dropping to the side of Adrian's parry and lightly smacking him across his backside. Adrian's expression turned scarlet as she retreated, holding her stick out in a guard position with a taunting smile. Point, Marinette said as Adrian advanced. Is that the game we're playing now? Adrian asked, touching the tip of Marinette's yardstick. He made a cursory swipe at her backside only to find his blade diverted as Marinette parried low. Yes, and I'm currently doing better than you weep. Marinette giggled as Adrian slipped her guard, threading the yardstick around her backside and tugging her closer to him. Her nose bumped into his chest as she looked up at him, stretching up on her tiptoes as he used the yardstick to apply pressure to her bottom. Are you? Adrian asked, flashing a toothy grin. Yes, Marinette said, taking advantage of their closeness to land another strike on Adrian's bottom. I am. You are so going to pay for that, Adrian said, hand rubbing the spot where Marinette's ruler landed. Is that a threat? Marinette asked, readying herself for another attack. That, princess, is a promise, Adrian said, whirling his fearsome blade around his head. I promise that when we get home. Can I help you? Instantly, the yardsticks vanished behind their backs as the store clerk glanced between two red-faced adults trying their hardest to pretend like they weren't just having a sword fight with rulers. And no, I think we're good, Marinette said, holding out her ruler as though examining an antique sword. Just testing the tensile flexibility of merchandise, right, darling? Indeed, Adrian said, thoughtfully examining his yardstick. Do these come in imperial measurements too? I find metric rulers to be too precise for my tastes. The long-suffering store clerk glanced between them with a small sigh before pointing to a sign that clearly read, "Please do not use yardsticks as lightsabers." In our defense, we weren't pretending to use them as lightsabers, Marinette offered quietly, sheepishly tapping her yardstick against her heel. You break it, you buy it, the clerk said before turning around and leaving the pair alone with their embarrassment. Marinette caught Adrian glancing out of the corner of his eye at her, identically red in the face. Marinette glanced back at her yardstick, slowly raising in front of her. WRRM, Marinette said, swinging the stick back and forth, miming the sound of a lightsaber as Adrian clutched his stomach, silently shaking with laughter. What did I just say? The clerk's voice called from around the corner. Okay, fine. Marinette called back, handing Adrian her yardstick and folding her arms and muttering killjoy under her breath. Aside from Jedi weaponry, what else did you have your eye on? Adrian snorted, draping the yardsticks over her shoulder. I don't suppose we could return them if I ended up not liking any, Marinette sighed, thoughtfully examining her options. Not to sound like a douche, but money isn't exactly an issue with me, Adrian said, frowning. Actually there's no way to not sound like a douche when saying that, is there? Afraid not, Marinette said, glancing up at him. If you had to put together a starter pack, what would you pick? You mean like Impact Play 101 or something? Adrian asked, scratching his head with the tip of a yardstick. Yeah, Marinette said, like if you were stranded on a deserted island and could only take like 4 spankers with you. I'd probably bring the ropey ones so I could build a raft out of there, Adrian laughed, turning his attention to the racks. Marinette watched him pace up and down the racks, glancing at her and the implements before him. We could start with the classics, Adrian said, reaching up and plucking a black riding crop from the hangers, flexing it experimentally and lightly smacking his thigh. He passed the crop to Marinette, who glanced at it curiously, flexing it in her hands as Adrian returned with a green and black flogger. And if I don't like it, we can use it to wash your new car, Marinette snickered, examining the soft leather threads of the flogger while Adrian returned with a thin wooden pointer and thick leather paddle. I think this is a good place to start, Adrian said, collecting the set of toys and depositing them in the cart just outside the room. We can always adjust from here as needed, but this is a pretty broad range of, sensations. I take it they're all different? Marinette asked, a small thrill running through her as she eyed the small cash in their basket. More or less, Adrian said, nodding towards the counter. Some are sharp, some are thuddy. Different people prefer or dislike different things, so it's best to experiment a little. Is that what we're going to do? Marinette said, a teasing lilt creeping into her voice as she threaded her arm through Adrian's. Experiment. If you think you're up for it, Adrian said. Is that a challenge? Marinette asked, glaring at him playfully over the rim of her glasses. Let's just see how the weekend goes, Adrian said with a conspiratorial wink as they arrived at the register. Just these? The cashier asked, as Adrian unpacked the basket. I have an order ready to pick up too, Adrian said, ignoring a quizzical glance from Marinette. Name? The clerk asked, turning around to root through a row of neatly arranged black shopping bags behind her. Marcel Dubois, Adrian replied. The cashier flinched as Marinette failed to hold back a loud bark of laughter that echoed off the bare shop walls. She covered her mouth, smothering a fit of giggles as the clerk disappeared in the back. Seriously, Marinette wheezed. A little discretion never hurts, Adrian said with a devilish smirk. What if he finds out? Marinette asked as the clerk returned with 2 bags labeled M. Dubois. Hey, Adrian just shrugged as the clerk began ringing up the merchandise. What's in the bags? Marinette asked, arching her neck to try and see inside the nearest bag. Incidentals, Adrian said with a secretive smile. Incidentals? Marinette asked. She stretched to look inside again, but Adrian lightly wrapped the top of the bag with one of the yardsticks before passing it off to the clerk. All within the parameters you set, I promise, Adrian assured her, passing his credit card across the counter without a second glance at the total. Marinette herself didn't look, not daring to think how much Adrian could drop on their mutual hobby without a care in the world. Then again, she supposed if her father had died and left her a multi-million-dollar estate, she wouldn't sweat a few €100 here or there either. All set? Adrian asked, hauling the bags up with a small grunt. I guess, Marinette shrugged, glancing at the bags with a lip-biting smile. Sooner we leave, the sooner we can start experimenting, right? Someone's eager to get her butt smacked, Adrian chuckled, reaching out to call the elevator only to realize it was already coming down. Very eager, Marinette said, licking her lips as she looked up at him. You have no idea the kind of month I've had. I'm sure I don't, Adrian said, glancing at her out of the corner of his eye. You must be stressed. To put it mildly, Marinette sighed, shooting him a resolute smile. Which is why I don't want anything to get in the way of my chosen form of stress relief this weekend. I can't imagine anything would, Adrian said, already wishing they were home and he could have her all to himself. The elevator dinged as it reached ground floor. Shall we then? The doors opened, Marinette skipped forward, suddenly feeling as though she didn't have a care in the world, only to run headlong into Chloe Bourgeois. Chapter end notes. Cliffhanger chapter, but a rather significant cliffhanger. Thank you to everyone who let me know how to make lightsaber noises with your mouth. That was an integral part of this chapter. Next time we get some drama. D to the R to the AMA drama. Scratch